Selecting guardrails and barriers. Oftentimes in designing new roads or improving the conditions of older roads, transportation engineers will consider using guardrails and barriers to improve safety for drivers. As you know from being a driver, all roads do not have guardrails or barriers. This is because there is a detailed process for determining whether a guardrail or barrier will be needed. The first important step in determining whether a guardrail or barrier is needed is by analyzing traffic characteristics such as the traffic flow and the types of vehicles that use the road. If the analysis finds that a barrier is in fact needed, the type of barrier needed will then need to be determined. To make this selection, factors such as expected impact frequency, cost of construction, and cost and ease of maintenance will be considered. Weather will also affect this selection. Transportation engineers typically try to predict if the type of guardrail or barrier they select will impact snow removal operations or cause snow drifts before installing them on a road. Finally, aesthetics and practicality are a major concern. Guardrails and barriers preferably should not be a distraction for drivers, nor should they be aesthetically displeasing. By following these steps, transportation engineers aim to make the right selection the first time as to not waste resources going back to remove or change them.
High-tension cable guardrail is a flexible barrier system that consists of tension steel cables held by weak steel posts. It can be installed on straight, curved, and steep roads. When a vehicle impacts the guardrail system, the post will bend or break away, leaving the cables to do most of the work. Due to its flexible nature, the forces experienced by the driver tend to be lower than any other guardrail system. However, this flexibility also means the cables can deflect as much as 10 feet during a crash. This system is the lowest initial cost guardrail system to install, but due to the bending and breaking posts, it can be expensive and high maintenance. High tension guardrails have passed crash tests for a wide range of vehicles, including cars, pickups, and single unit trucks. It is aesthetically pleasing and is one of the safest barriers available. When faced with an obstacle that must be shielded, consider using high tension cable guardrail first.
Low tension cable guardrail is another type of barrier that is used on roads. Although these barriers typically have a lower initial cost associated with them, they have very high maintenance costs. Low tension cable guardrails also have more give in them, which typically doesn't stop the vehicle as fast, but can actually be less traumatic for passengers involved in the crashes. That being said, low tension cable guardrails are rarely used anymore due to their inferiority to high tension cable guardrails. Some places that they are still used, however, include low-speed roads and roads with tight radius curves.
Different from cable barriers, steel beam guardrails are much more pricey up front. They cost approximately $120 per foot for material and $80 per foot for installation of the guardrail. Maintenance, on the other hand, is much cheaper. This is because the material is not tensioned and is much less likely to wear down over time. If a collision occurs with a steel beam guardrail, only part of the rail needs to be replaced, which also results in lower maintenance costs. This type of rail is very sturdy and does not give much when collided with. For this reason, this type of rail is used in areas where it is crucial that the vehicle does not make it through the barrier, such as near water bodies, steep inclines, or on sharp turns. The negative aspect of this is that more of the energy created by the crash is transferred back to the vehicle and the passengers, which can result in more vehicle damage and personal injury. There are two common types of steel beam guardrail, the W-beam and the Thri-beam. Both of these beams serve the same purpose, but the Thri-beam spreads the force across a larger surface area and therefore is used in locations with a larger flow of semis and trucks.
Another type of barrier is the permanent concrete barrier system. These can be poured in continuous sections using slip-form paving like the picture shown to the right, or they can be set up using precast sections and then lining them up on the worksite. Ideally, these would be poured in continuous section in order to stay together tighter. Slip-form pavers allow for median walls up to 8.6 feet to be poured, according to GoMaco. Concrete barriers are the most expensive type of guardrail system with a price of $300 per linear foot. Permanent concrete barriers are the only barrier system that are able to withstand contact from a semi. The barrier system is incredibly strong and will exert a very large impact force onto the vehicle that hits it. The main purpose of the concrete barrier system is to keep vehicles on the road, even if that means damage or injury will occur. They are commonly used in medians to prevent traffic from crossing over and causing head-on collisions, especially those with high truck use. They are also used in areas where retention is needed due to large drop-offs and other types of hazardous terrains, such as bridges, on and off ramps, and near water. A new
guardrail system has been developed by KSI Global, a company based out of Australia. This system contains large rollers that are housed inside a metal crash barrier. These rollers are strategically placed so that they stick out past the metal rails and absorb the impact of the vehicle when struck. These rollers are able to convert some of the linear energy of the car into rotational energy of the barrels. By doing so, the severity of crashes is greatly reduced and allows the vehicle to sustain less damage than a rigid wall. It will also help the vehicle return to the direction of travel instead of going towards oncoming traffic. This system has recently begun testing and has been pre-qualified in both European and South Korean crash testing standards. KSI even claims that these barriers have the qualifications to pass American safety barrier standards. These American safety barrier standards are regarded as the most stringent in the world. Below you can see how a truck collides with the barrier of the rail and is able to flex under the impact. This is where it absorbs some of the shock and the rollers begin to absorb the energy from the collision.